The city pulsed with electric light, a living organism of neon and steel. The streets were alive with the hum of technology, a symphony of progress and innovation. Towers of glass and steel kissed the clouds, their reflective surfaces capturing the essence of the city below. Each building was a testament to human ingenuity, reaching ever higher into the sky. Flying vehicles zipped through artificial canyons, their lights tracing paths through the night. The air was filled with the hum of engines and the occasional burst of laughter from the streets below. New Alexandria, a beacon of future progress, stood as a symbol of what humanity could achieve. Its streets were lined with advanced infrastructure, and its skyline was a canvas of innovation. But even in paradise, darkness lurked. In the shadowy corners of the city, where the neon lights barely reached, secrets and dangers hid from the light. He moved unseen, a whisper in the alleys. His presence was felt but never seen, a ghost in the machine of the city. A flicker at the edge of sight, a momentary blur that vanished as quickly as it appeared. He was a master of evasion, slipping through the cracks of the city's consciousness. His face, hidden behind a mask, was a blank slate. The mask was his shield, his identity concealed from the prying eyes of the city. Only his eyes, burning with an inner fire, hinted at the power within. They were windows to a soul driven by a purpose, a mission that consumed him. They called him Shadow Knight, a name whispered in fear and reverence, a guardian who watched over the city from the shadows. He could control shadows, bend them to his will. The darkness was his ally, a tool he wielded with precision and skill, solidity and form born of darkness. He could shape the shadows into anything he needed, a weapon, a shield, a means of escape. He could melt into shadows, vanish from sight, an ability that made him both feared and respected, a ghost in the neon jungle. He was the city's guardian, a silent protector. From the rooftops, he watched over New Alexandria, ever vigilant, ever ready. Tonight, the shadows whispered of a new threat, a danger that lurked in the heart of the city waiting to strike, a disturbance in the city's rhythm. The usual harmony of neon and steel was disrupted, a sign that something was amiss. A presence cold and calculating, like a knife in the dark. It moved with purpose, a predator in the urban jungle. Shadow Knight had to find it, before it found him. The hunt was on, and the city's fate hung in the balance. His name had been Alex once, an ordinary man living an ordinary life. He had dreams, aspirations, all shattered in a single blinding moment. A lab accident. Energy surged, uncontrolled, chaotic. It ripped through him, leaving him forever changed. Doctors called it a miracle he survived, but the world called him a freak. He retreated from the world, seeking solace in the darkness. That's when he discovered it. His control, the ability to manipulate shadows. At first it terrified him. Then he saw the city's suffering. He saw the innocent preyed upon, the corrupt lining their pockets with the city's despair. He knew he couldn't stand by. He had been chosen, shaped by darkness. He would become the Shadow Knight. A chilling laughter echoed through the deserted streets. The sound was haunting, reverberating off the cold, empty buildings, sending shivers down the spine of anyone who might have been there to hear it. But the streets were empty, devoid of life, as if the city itself was holding its breath in anticipation of something dreadful. Holographic billboards flickered, distorted by a wave of disrupted energy. The once vibrant advertisements now twisted and glitched, their messages lost in a sea of static. It was as if the very fabric of reality was being tampered with, manipulated by an unseen force. A figure materialized in the center of the plaza, bathed in an eerie green glow. The light was unnatural, casting long, twisted shadows that danced around the figure. It was as if the darkness itself was alive, writhing and shifting in response to the presence of this otherworldly being. The Neon Phantom, a being of pure energy, able to manipulate the city's power grid at will. His form was constantly shifting, a mass of glowing lines and arcs of electricity, a living embodiment of chaos and power. He could bend the city's infrastructure to his will, turning the very lifeblood of New Alexandria into his personal plaything. He craved chaos, reveled in destruction. Every flicker of a light, every surge of power was a testament to his control. He thrived on the fear and confusion he caused, feeding off the panic that spread through the city like wildfire. Tonight, he planned to plunge New Alexandria into darkness. It was not just a physical darkness but a metaphorical one, a descent into fear and uncertainty. The city would be his canvas, and he would paint it with shadows and despair. Buildings shook as the Phantom unleashed a surge of energy. The ground trembled, windows shattered, and the very air seemed to hum with tension. It was a display of raw, unbridled power, a warning to anyone who might dare to oppose him. Power lines crackled, spitting out arcs of electricity. The city's power grid was a symphony of chaos, each spark a note in the Phantom's twisted melody. It was a beautiful, terrifying sight, a testament to the destructive potential of unchecked power. He was a living storm, a force of pure, unadulterated chaos. His presence was a whirlwind of energy, a maelstrom of destruction that left nothing but ruin in its wake. He was unstoppable, a force of nature that could not be contained. His laughter echoed again, a promise of annihilation. It was a sound that carried with it the weight of impending doom, a chilling reminder of the power he wielded. The city was his playground, and he was just getting started. From the shadows, Shadow Knight watched. He had seen the devastation, felt the fear that gripped the city, but he was not afraid. He was determined, resolute. He knew that he was the city's last hope, the only one who could stand against the Phantom. He could sense the raw power radiating from the Phantom. It was a palpable force, a wave of energy that seemed to pulse through the air. But Shadow Knight was not deterred. He had faced powerful foes before, and he would face this one with the same determination. This was a foe unlike any he had faced before. The Phantom was not just a villain, he was a force of nature, a being of pure energy and chaos. But Shadow Knight knew that he had to confront him, to stand against the darkness and fight for the city he loved. Doubt gnawed at him, but he pushed it down. He had to act. The city was depending on him, and he would not let it down. With a steely resolve, he stepped out of the shadows, ready to face the Neon Phantom and whatever horrors the night might bring. Shadow Knight launched himself from the rooftop, a dark meteor streaking across the neon sky. He landed with a thud, solidifying from a swirling vortex of shadows. The Phantom turned, his energy form shimmering.
You dare interfere? I am the Neon Phantom, and this city will be my masterpiece of destruction.
A wave of energy erupted from the Phantom's hand, blasting a nearby building into rubble. Shadow Knight barely dodged, summoning a shield of solidified shadow. The ground trembled beneath his feet. He fought back, summoning tendrils of darkness to ensnare the Phantom. But the energy being simply phased through them, his laughter echoing mockingly. Shadows alone wouldn't be enough to stop this menace. Dodging another energy blast, Shadow Knight realized he needed a new plan. He couldn't overpower the Phantom, but perhaps he could outsmart him. He needed to find a weakness, exploit it. He studied the Phantom's movements, noticing a pattern in his attacks. Each surge of energy seemed to be followed by a momentary flicker, a brief dip in his energy output. Was that his vulnerability? Shadow Knight needed to draw out another energy blast, create an opening. But one wrong move could be fatal. His heart pounded in his chest, but his resolve solidified. This was his chance.
You call yourself a protector? You are nothing but a shadow, a fleeting illusion.
The Phantom taunted, sensing his opponent's hesitation. He raised his hand, energy crackling around it. The Phantom unleashed another devastating energy blast. Just as Shadow Knight predicted, a flicker of vulnerability followed. This was his chance. He lunged forward, pushing his powers to their limit. He extended his arm, summoning a massive hand of solidified shadow. It shot forward, engulfing the Phantom before he could react, the energy being thrashed, his form flickering violently. For a moment, everything went silent. Then a blinding flash of light illuminated the plaza. The shockwave knocked Shadow Knight off his feet, sending him crashing into a nearby fountain. He looked up, dazed, and saw the Phantom's form dissolving, his energy dissipating into the night. The threat was gone. The city was safe, for now. He rose from the fountain, his body aching, every muscle screaming in protest. The water dripped from his tattered suit, each drop a testament to the battle he had just endured. His breath came in ragged gasps, the adrenaline that had fueled him now ebbing away, leaving him feeling both drained and strangely exhilarated. His suit was torn, the fabric barely holding together after the fierce struggle. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving him drained but strangely exhilarated. He had pushed himself to the limit, and now, in the aftermath, he felt a sense of accomplishment that was almost overwhelming. He had faced his fear, stared down a monster, and emerged victorious. The creature lay defeated at his feet, a symbol of the darkness he had conquered. He stood tall, his chest heaving, knowing that he had done what many thought impossible. He looked out over the city, the sprawling metropolis that he had sworn to protect. From his vantage point, he could see the lights beginning to flicker back on, one by one, as the power was restored. The city was coming back to life, and it was because of him. Lights were flickering back on, the hum of returning power filling the air. The once dark and silent streets were now bathed in a warm glow, a sign that the danger had passed. The people of the city would be safe tonight thanks to him. People would be safe tonight thanks to him. He had given them a chance to sleep peacefully, free from the fear that had gripped them for so long. He had become their silent guardian, watching over them from the shadows. He was no longer just a man hiding from his past. The battles he had fought, the sacrifices he had made had transformed him into something more. He had become a symbol of hope, a beacon of light in the darkness. He was the Shadow Knight, a symbol of hope in the darkness. The city needed him, flawed as he was. He had his demons, his own battles to fight, but he had found a purpose that was greater than himself. The city needed him, flawed as he was. It was a place filled with both light and shadow, and it required someone who could navigate both. He was that someone, the hero they needed, even if they didn't know it, and he would answer its call, time and time again. No matter the cost, no matter the sacrifice, he would be there. He had made a promise to protect the city, and he intended to keep it. He had found his purpose, his redemption. The shadows that once haunted him were now his allies, giving him the strength he needed to continue his fight. He had become one with the night, a protector born of darkness. The shadows welcomed him back, no longer a source of fear but a source of strength. He had embraced his destiny, and in doing so, had found a new sense of peace. He was one with the night, a protector born of darkness. He moved silently through the city, a watchful guardian always ready to defend those who could not defend themselves. He would be vigilant, always watching, always ready. The city was his to protect, and he would do so with every ounce of strength he had. The Shadow Knight had risen, and he would not fall. News of the battle spread like wildfire through the digital veins of New Alexandria. The Neon Phantom, a terrifying boogeyman of urban legend, had been defeated. But by whom? Whispers of a shadowy savior, a figure of darkness wielding impossible powers, echoed through the forums and chat rooms. Some dismissed it as mere hysteria, a product of overactive imaginations. Others, however, felt a glimmer of hope. In a city where corruption often wore a friendly face, the idea of a silent guardian operating outside the law resonated deeply. The authorities, of course, denounced the vigilante, a dangerous element, they called him, a threat to public order, but their words rang hollow. The city had been saved, and that spoke louder than any official statement. As the first rays of dawn painted the sky, Shadow Knight was gone, melted back into the shadows, leaving behind only whispers and rumors. He was a phantom, an enigma, but his presence lingered, a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest corners of the city, courage could blossom. That even in the face of overwhelming odds, one person could make a difference. The battle was over, but the war was far from won. New threats would emerge, new monsters would rise from the darkness. But Shadow Knight would be there, a silent guardian, a watchful protector. For justice, like shadows, is an enduring presence, always there, even when unseen. A constant reminder that the fight for good is never truly over. And in the heart of New Alexandria, hope, like a flickering candle, refused to be extinguished.